Buddha reveals who you were in a previous life. Welcome back everyone to Mind Podcast. Have you ever wondered why some people are born into wealth and luxury, while others endure poverty and hardship all their lives? Or why some are blessed with good looks and robust health, while others are born unattractive or suffer from chronic illnesses? Is this randomness, a joke of fate, or is there a deeper reason behind it? Buddhism teaches the law of cause and effect, observing this life to understand previous lives and looking at the present to foresee the past and future. Each cause has its corresponding effect. Wealth and poverty, high or low status, are all results of one's karma from past lives. Who were we in our past lives? To find out and to learn how to shape our destiny and future, the Buddha explained 11 types of human karmic relationships. Over 2,500 years ago, after 49 days of meditation under the Bodhi tree, Siddhartha Gautama attained enlightenment. During his meditation, with a mind as clear as a mirror, he contemplated the nature of life and death, the causes of reincarnation, and the path to nirvana. He recalled his past lives, seeing hundreds of thousands of previous existences. He also observed the cycles of creation and destruction of many worlds. He saw how beings, depending on their good or bad karma, were reborn in different realms since the beginningless time. The Buddha knew he had deep karmic ties with his father, King Suddhodana, Queen Maya, and his wife, Princess Yasodhara. 1. A person with a clear, resonant, and expressive voice likely sang for the three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, in a past life. 2. A person who is unintelligent in this life may have refused to be taught in a past life. 3. A person who serves others or is a slave in this life likely owes debts from past lives. 4. A person of low status and poverty in this life may not have shown respect to the three jewels in the past. 5. A person who is clean and free from illness in this life probably never harmed others and was compassionate in previous lives. Indeed, the Buddhist teachings are profound. From the 11 teachings above, we can see that those who enjoy blessings in this life have accrued merit over many past lives, while those who suffer have created negative karma in their past existences. Sometimes we meet good people who suffer from many misfortunes. Despite never harming anyone, they are repeatedly deceived by others. In such times, we might wonder why heaven is so unfair. But karma spans many lifetimes and cannot be understood by looking at just one life. Perhaps these people did many bad deeds in past lives, resulting in their current misfortunes. Everything in this world follows the law of karma and has its roots. The Buddha always encouraged us to do good deeds, live virtuously, and accumulate merit, as this ensures happiness in this life and beyond. The law of karma is impersonal. In the cycle of reincarnation, both bad karma and good karma follow us like a shadow. Past actions will shape future circumstances. Thus, accumulating virtue is planting seeds for a bright future. One should live in harmony with nature, letting go of attachments and worries, like the sea that embraces all rivers and the mountain that accepts the earth's embrace. However, letting go of attachments does not mean living irresponsibly or giving up on life. True renunciation is eliminating bad desires and thoughts, such as ambition for fame and wealth, jealousy, hatred, and selfishness. These are the things that bind people to suffering and lead to further negative karma. According to the Buddha, death is not the end but a transition to another life. Depending on one's karma, one may be reborn as a plant, animal, or human. Those who accumulate great merit can be reborn as humans and enjoy a happy, wealthy life. If fortunate enough to encounter the Dharma, it is a great blessing. Conversely, those who commit evil deeds will face suffering, illness, or poverty in future lives, or be reborn as animals to repay their karma. Your past life is not as important as what you achieve in this life. Don't lament your fate. Live peacefully and be content with what you have. If a virtuous person turns towards Buddhism and practices, they will certainly have a bright future. Over 2,500 years ago, in the kingdom of Magadha in southern India, during a banquet hosted by 2 nobles for the king and other aristocrats, a child sat in a revered position reserved for the most esteemed teachers. While everyone was astonished, it was revealed that this child was Sariputta, the son of the famous scholar Dasaka. Everyone thought the child was just naive, but he spoke clearly and wisely, impressing everyone. The king was so pleased that he immediately awarded the child a village. Sariputta was only 8 years old at the time. How did this intelligent child become the Buddha's foremost disciple and wisest follower? The true teacher. At the age of 8, Sariputra had already read all the books he could find in the world. As he grew up, there was nothing he didn't understand. He and his best friend, Maudgalyayan, played together, but they soon found even the most entertaining games boring and a waste of time. They eventually realized that solving the problem of life and death was the most important task. So the two traveled everywhere seeking teachers to learn the way, but no master could teach them for long. After just 2 or 3 days, the teachers would exhaust their knowledge. Sariputra and Maudgalyayan then established their own school, each with hundreds of disciples. They made a pact with each other. If either of us hears the true path first, he must inform the other without hiding it. One day, while Sariputra was walking in Rajagaha, he encountered the monk Ashvajit, a disciple of the Buddha who was out begging for alms. Ashvajit, clad in his monk's robe and holding his alms bowl, walked with a serene and dignified expression. Sariputra was so captivated by this sight that he couldn't take his eyes off him. He asked, "Venerable monk, may I ask who your teacher is and what teachings he imparts?" Ashvajit calmly replied, "My teacher is the Buddha, Shakyamuni. He teaches the truth about the universe and human life. I have not fully understood everything yet, but I remember that the Buddha often says, 'All phenomena arise from causes, and all phenomena cease due to causes.' The Buddha, the great teacher, always speaks thus." Just these few words made Sariputra feel as if the earth were shaking and the heavens were quaking. He immediately attained enlightenment and reached the first stage of sainthood known as Sotapanna. After attaining enlightenment, the Buddha initially spread his teachings in southern India, with the main base being Venuvana Monastery in Magadha. However, there was no base for teaching in northern India yet. The conditions came together when a wealthy man named Anathapindika in Shravasti in the north visited his friend in the south and sincerely took refuge in the Buddha. He vowed to build a monastery in the north to offer to the Buddha. Anathapindika used gold to cover the entire garden of Prince Jada in Rajagaha to buy the land for the construction. He then invited the Buddha to send someone to design and oversee the project. Knowing that the north was still dominated by non-Buddhist sects, the Buddha chose someone who could not only supervise the construction but also defeat the non-Buddhists in debates. That person was Sariputra. Indeed, soon after the construction of Jetavana Monastery began, the non-Buddhists gathered and challenged Sariputra to a debate. They said, if Sariputra wins, the monastery can be built. If he loses, it cannot. Anathapindika was deeply concerned, doubting that Sariputra alone could debate against so many non-Buddhists. However, Sariputra was delighted, seeing it as a great opportunity to propagate the Dharma. On the appointed day, the people of Shravasti flocked to watch, and the streets were empty. Tens of thousands of non-Buddhists gathered. Once everyone was seated, the debate began. Regardless of whether it was through supernatural powers or arguments, the non-Buddhists together were no match for Sariputra alone. In the end, many realized the truth and followed Sariputra. The construction of Jetavana Monastery progressed rapidly. One day, near completion, Sariputra told Anathapindika, "Although the monastery you are building for the Buddha is not yet complete, the heavenly palace created for you through this virtuous act is already finished." Sariputra used his divine eye to show Anathapindika the palaces in the heavens and explained that Tusita heaven was the best, with long-lived celestial beings and bodhisattvas often teaching the Dharma. Anathapindika vowed, "In the future, I will surely be reborn in Tusita heaven." As he spoke these words, all the other heavenly palaces gradually disappeared, leaving only the golden palace in Tusita heaven, shining in the sky. In one of his previous lives, there is a story about Sariputra's eye. At that time, Sariputra vowed to practice the bodhisattva path and to give generously. He gave away his house, land, and all his possessions to others. Finally, he was willing to give even his own body. His sincere and earnest wish moved a celestial being who wanted to test his resolve. One evening, the celestial being transformed into a young man and stood by the road where Sariputra would pass. When Sariputra arrived, the young man cried out in distress. Sariputra approached him and asked, "Young friend, why are you crying so sorrowfully? I am a renunciate who has vowed to alleviate the suffering of all beings. Whatever I have that can fulfill your wish, I will give it to you." The young man said, "My mother is suffering from an incurable disease, and the doctor said that only the eye of a renunciant can cure her. But how can I possibly obtain the eye of a living renunciant?" Sariputra replied, "This is no problem. I am willing to give you one of my eyes." Sariputra thought to himself, "I have 2 eyes. If I give away one, I will still have one left to see." So he told the young man to take his eye. The young man refused, saying, "How can I take your eye by force? If you are willing, you should pluck it out yourself and give it to me." Sariputra then used his hand to pluck out one of his eyes and handed it to the young man. However, the young man found the eye repulsive and ugly and was afraid to take it home to his mother. He then trampled on Sariputra's eye and walked away. Sariputra heard the young man's words and the sound of his eye being crushed underfoot. He sighed inwardly and thought, "It is difficult to help sentient beings. The bodhisattva's mind is hard to cultivate. I should not entertain grandiose notions of practicing the Mahayana path. For now, I will focus on my own practice." As Sariputra had this thought, many celestial beings appeared and said to him, "Renunciant, do not lose heart. That young man was a celestial being sent to test your resolve as a bodhisattva. You should be more determined in your practice." Hearing this, Sariputra's bodhisattva resolve was rekindled. For 60 lifetimes, Sariputra continuously practiced, and in this life, meeting the Buddha, he achieved the fruit of enlightenment and attained the divine eye. When Sariputra was nearly 80 years old, after spending 90 days in the summer retreat at Jetavana Monastery, he sought the Buddha's permission to travel and spread the Dharma. The Buddha praised and agreed. However, shortly after Sariputra left, a monk came to the Buddha and said, "Venerable Buddha, Sariputra did not leave to spread the Dharma. He left because he humiliated me and is too ashamed to face me." The Buddha did not approve of backbiting, so he immediately sent someone to recall Sariputra. In front of everyone, the Buddha sternly asked Sariputra, "Sariputra, before you left, a monk said you humiliated him. Is this true?" Sariputra respectfully replied, "World-honored one, since the day I took refuge in the Buddha, I have never killed, nor have I ever spoken arrogantly. Besides expounding the truth, I have never compared myself with others or concerned myself with personal gains and losses. Today is the final day of the summer retreat. Over the past 3 months, I have repented daily and maintained right mindfulness. My mind is as clear as jade, without any disrespect or contempt for others. World-honored one, the earth is the epitome of patience. It does not reject any impurities, whether they are excrement, blood, or pus. My mind today is like the earth, willing to endure patiently and not oppose others. Just as a pure stream washes away both good and bad things, my mind today has no discriminatory thoughts. In cleaning away dust and dirt, I do not distinguish between what I love or hate. My mind today truly does not generate such discriminations. World-honored one, I am in right mindfulness and have never looked down upon other monks. I am saying this to the Buddha because I understand my situation. The monk in question also knows his situation. If it is my fault, I am willing to repent to that monk to clear any guilt in my conscience." Upon hearing these words, everyone present was moved. The Buddha then addressed the monk who had slandered Sariputra, saying, "You have slandered Elder Sariputra and caused division within the Sangha. If you do not sincerely repent, the consequences will be severe." The monk knelt before Sariputra to apologize. With a magnanimous heart, Sariputra gently placed his hand on the monk's head and said with compassion and kindness, "Everyone makes mistakes. Recognizing and correcting them is a great virtue. I accept your repentance, but do not let it happen again." His demeanor and words deeply moved everyone. All 3 of Sariputra's brothers and 3 sisters joined the Buddha's monastic community and attained the state of Arhat. However, his mother harbored resentment towards the Buddha and his followers. When they came to her house for alms, she would give them food while scolding them. When the Buddha announced that he would soon enter nirvana, Sariputra decided that, as the chief disciple, he should enter nirvana before the Buddha. Yet, he had one important wish unfulfilled. With the Buddha's permission, he returned to his hometown of Nalaka in Magadha. There, he displayed symptoms of dysentery. At night, the 4 heavenly kings and Sakra, the king of the gods, came to his small house to care for him, but he declined their help. Seeing these deities visit her son, his mother was astonished, thinking, "Could my son be greater than these deities?" She asked her son, and Sariputra confirmed it. She then wondered, "If my son has cultivated to this level, how much higher must his teacher have cultivated?" Seeing that the time was ripe, Sariputra explained the Buddhist teachings to his mother. She immediately attained the first stage of sainthood. Sariputra peacefully left the world at the age of 84. 10 Teachings of the Buddha for a Peaceful Life. It is said that the Buddha Shakyamuni lived around the 5th century BCE in what is now India. Before his enlightenment, he was a prince, living a life of luxury with a beautiful wife and a son, enjoying all the wealth and honor that people desired. However, with boundless compassion, he renounced his prosperous and noble life, embarking on a difficult and arduous journey to seek enlightenment. Finally, he realized the truth of the universe and spread the Dharma to save sentient beings. Throughout his life, he witnessed countless sufferings and injustices. Each person who came to him for help received different guidance and advice. Every teaching of the Buddha is a precious summary of the wisdom he acquired during his 80 years of life, aimed at helping those who strive to improve themselves and achieve a better life. Here are 10 life lessons distilled from the Buddha's teachings. Number 1. Love can heal. All the Buddha said, "Hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. This is the eternal rule." True love is the foundation of lasting happiness. It has the power to heal, transform every situation around us, and give life deep meaning. Love is the only thing in this world that can heal all wounds. Love here is not limited to romantic feelings, but extends to love between people and all living things. Living with compassion, forgiveness, and sincerity can resolve even the greatest conflicts, leading to a much happier life. 2. Live in the present. The Buddha said, "Do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future, concentrate the mind on the present moment." He also said, "The secret of health for both mind and body is not to mourn for the past, nor to worry about the future, but to live the present moment wisely and earnestly." Indeed, people are often hurt by past traumas or worried about uncertain future events, forgetting that the present moment is what truly needs our attention and care. Living fully and joyfully in each moment can free our minds from unnecessary burdens. 3. Understanding yourself is wisdom. Throughout his life, the Buddha believed that the greatest victory was overcoming oneself. Before understanding others, one must understand oneself. He taught that understanding others is wisdom, but understanding oneself is enlightenment. A person who doesn't know what they want or need, or why they act as they do, is like a ship drifting aimlessly on the water. 4. Be mindful of your words. The Buddha taught that words have the power to destroy and to heal. When words are both true and kind, they can change our world. Thus, it is crucial to practice mindful speech. The ancients said, "Illness enters through the mouth, misfortune comes out of it." They advised to think carefully before speaking. Therefore, we must speak with reason and consider the consequences. Before speaking, consider 1. Is it the right time? 2. Is it true? 3. Is it beneficial? 4. Is it kind? Avoid harsh words under the guise of speaking the truth, because words reflect our inner state. Every word should be both well-intended and pleasantly spoken to bring good to others and ourselves. 5. Personal experience is the ultimate filter. Humans are prone to confusion and often make mistakes. The Buddha said that one should never immediately believe what others say, even if they are highly respected or deeply loved and trusted. Advice is only for reference and may not be correct when applied to our circumstances. Take time to observe, analyze, and draw your conclusions. Always take responsibility for your decisions and actions. 6. The truth will ultimately come to light. The Buddha said that 3 things cannot be hidden for long: the sun, the moon, and the truth. Therefore, when misunderstood, do not get angry, impatient, or distressed. Eventually, the truth will reveal itself and explain everything. Likewise, do not engage in deceit and lies, as a needle in a bundle will eventually poke out. No matter what you do, even if you can hide it temporarily, the truth will be exposed sooner or later, and you will have to face the consequences of your actions. 7. Do not get angry. learn to forgive others. The Buddha taught, anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Anger is unavoidable in daily life. When anger arises, if we do not control our emotions, it can flare up like a fire and destroy everything. It makes us say harsh words and perform regrettable actions, leading to unnecessary consequences. Therefore, always remain calm in the face of challenges. Do not get angry, but learn to forgive and be compassionate towards others. This is the simplest way to free yourself from burdens and worries. As long as you are angry, resentful, and hateful towards others, you waste energy thinking about them. Learn to forgive and quickly forget unpleasant things. Anger is like holding a burning coal. The person throwing it might get burnt, but your hand will be harmed first. Number 8. Choose your friends wisely. The Buddha always advised people to be kind and gentle to everyone. However, choosing friends requires wise selection. A good friend can make our lives happier, while a bad friend can cause trouble, disaster, and negativity. Therefore, avoid associating with those who complain, criticize, are ungrateful, selfish, and deceitful. If you wish to have good friends, you must strive to be a genuinely good person yourself, as you attract those similar to you. 9. Be grateful for everything in life. Every experience, whether good or bad, has positive impacts on us and teaches us valuable, sometimes priceless, lessons. Therefore, accept them with gratitude instead of disappointment, frustration, or blame. The Buddha said, "Be grateful, for if you haven't learned much today, you've still learned a little. If you haven't learned anything, be grateful for your health. If you're ill, be grateful that you're still alive." Remember, a heart full of gratitude makes you great. 10. Peace comes from within. Do not waste time searching for it. Everyone has goals to pursue in life. Chasing work passions can make us feel weary due to invisible pressures. At such times, we crave a sense of peace and relaxation. But living in a bustling world, where can we find true peace? Although seemingly simple, not everyone can answer this easily. According to the Buddha, peace must come from our minds, not from others. Therefore, do not seek peace outside. Nurture your soul from within. Spend quiet time to reflect on everything. Simple ways to find peace include setting work aside and spending quality time with loved ones. Regularly meditate, as it is an effective method to nourish both mind and body, gently and simply. Why can't practitioners use supernatural powers to resolve grudges? Venerable Moggallana was the foremost in supernatural powers with inconceivable abilities. He once used his toe to press down on King Sakra's palace, causing it to shake and collapse. So why didn't he use these powers to deal with thugs attacking him? Legend has it that during the time of Shakyamuni Buddha, among his 10 foremost disciples with extraordinary powers, Venerable Moggallana and Sariputta were the most outstanding in the monastic community. When the Buddha attained enlightenment, countless people turned towards him. Among his ordained disciples, numbering in the thousands, each had their strengths and vows, and Moggallana and Sariputta stood out. Moggallana's supernatural powers and Sariputta's wisdom were unrivaled. The Buddha often praised their achievements. Moggallana and Sariputta, close companions, frequently visited various realms, using their powers and wisdom to rescue those in suffering and educate sentient beings. One day, the two venerables went to the uninterrupted hell. The temperature in the hell was extremely high, like a furnace, with flames raging fiercely. The heat from the boiling oil cauldrons continuously spread out, enveloping the entire area. The people suffering the punishment screamed and wailed day and night, with cries of sorrow echoing endlessly, creating a horrific and ghastly scene. Sariputta and Moggallana, moved by compassion, used their powers to rain down holy water to purify them. However, the suffering from their evil karmic debt only temporarily paused. At that moment, they saw a particularly fearsome sinner with a human body and a demon's face. The figure was huge and grotesque, with a tongue that was wide and long. Inside the mouth, 500 red-hot iron plows were plowing the tongue as if it were a barren field, leaving the tongue torn and bleeding profusely. It was an extremely frightening sight. This sinner, upon seeing Sariputta and Moggallana, rejoiced as if he had found a treasure. He hurriedly ran over and pleaded, "O venerable ones, I am called Bullina. When I was alive, I was a preacher who propagated atheistic teachings and blasphemed against the Dharma. As a result, I am suffering this torment today. I beg you, If you pass through Jambudvipa, please compassionately tell my disciples not to deny the supreme beings in ignorance, and not to use deceitful words to poison the people, blaspheme the sacred, or rely on factions to oppress practitioners, for this will only increase my suffering here." Moggallana, raising his hand to stop the violent mob, said, "We have just come from the uninterrupted hell and saw your master Bolina suffering immensely. His tongue is continuously plowed by 500 red-hot iron plows, causing him unbearable pain. He asked me to tell you to stop blaspheming the Dharma, to cease deceiving the people, and to avoid following his sinful path, to avoid hellish torment, and to lessen his suffering." Out of goodwill, Moggallana conveyed Bolina's message, hoping that it might lead the evil people to repentance and relieve the grievances between them. Unexpectedly, as he finished speaking, the thugs ferociously attacked him, shouting, "Beat him! He dares to insult our master! He threatens our interests! Beat him!" Sticks, stones, and other objects rained down on Moggallana, injuring him severely. Despite his immense supernatural powers, Moggallana did not use them to defend himself. After being assaulted, he went into the city to beg for alms and returned to the monastery to eat. After tidying up his bowl and robe, he went to see the Buddha. He bowed deeply before the world-honored one and said, "I have just repaid my worldly karmic debt. Soon, Sariputta will enter nirvana. We have been the closest companions in this human world, and I believe it won't be long before I too will attain fulfillment and depart. Please forgive your disciple." With the most sincere reverence, Moggallana circumambulated the Buddha 3 times clockwise, bowing respectfully before returning to his hometown to bid farewell to his family, friends, and teach those with affinity. Shortly afterward, he ascended Mount Gridrakuta and entered nirvana. Later, within the monastic community, the Buddha recounted the story "Beating One, Releasing One," which was a past life tale of Sariputta and Moggallana. In ancient times, there were 2 practitioners. One day they passed through a village known for its unruly and arrogant youth. Seeing the 2 approaching, the youths conspired to trouble them. Blocking the first practitioner, they asked, "When will the weather return to normal?" The first practitioner smiled and replied, "Regardless of spring, summer, autumn, or winter, those who feel the wind and rain will feel cold." The youths let him pass. They then blocked the second practitioner and asked, "When will it get cold?" He replied, "In winter, the weather is cold. The sun, moon, and stars rotate naturally. Spring, summer, autumn, and winter follow in sequence. In winter, it gets cold. This is a constant law of nature, known to all except the ignorant." The youths, displeased, began throwing stones and dirt at the second practitioner. After many lifetimes of reincarnation, the first practitioner became Sariputta, and the second, Moggallana. The incidents resembled what happened today. The Buddha, knowing that many people doubted the supernatural powers of practitioners because Moggallana did not use them to resist the thugs, continued, "Do not doubt. The wondrous use of supernatural powers is not false. With such powers, the venerable could fly to the heavens or enter the earth, transform freely without obstruction." Moggallana retained his supernatural powers but chose not to use them against his karmic debt. Even the Tathagata does not go against the law of cause and effect. When karmic retribution arises, one must accept it. Conforming to cause and effect aligns with the law of the universe. Moreover, our practice also emphasizes compassion. Accept karmic retribution with joy, do not evade it, and do not resent those who bring it. Understanding the severity of karmic retribution should inspire diligent practice and careful conduct. Moggallana, understanding my teachings deeply, refrained from using supernatural powers to evade his karmic debts. This is commendable and serves as a lesson for you all. Dear audience, the ancients said, "One can disturb the waters of 1,000 rivers, but do not disturb the mind of a practitioner." It has always been forbidden to act against heaven's principles, blaspheme the Dharma, or persecute practitioners. Bolina, during his life, was a preacher who spread atheistic doctrines and blasphemed the Dharma, hence his severe suffering. His disciples, continuing their evil deeds in ignorance, deceiving people, blaspheming the divine, and persecuting practitioners, cannot avoid destruction and immense suffering in countless future lives. Venerable Moggallana, considered one of Shakyamuni Buddha's foremost disciples in supernatural powers, did not use them to resolve grudges or deal with the wicked. For a highly accomplished practitioner like Moggallana, he understood karmic relationships, the law of cause and effect, and the recompense for good and evil deeds. He did not want to use supernatural powers against ordinary people. This exemplifies the virtues of patience, wisdom, and compassion of the enlightened. According to the Buddhist teachings, supernatural powers among practitioners are not unheard of. However, in the practice of righteous paths, whether in Buddhism or Taoism, moral character must be high, and virtue must be great to develop supernatural powers. As Shakyamuni Buddha taught, do not doubt the wondrous use of supernatural powers, they are not false. However, developing supernatural powers is not the ultimate goal of practitioners. Aligning with the universe's characteristics to attain fulfillment is fundamental. Those with supernatural powers do not flaunt them. To those familiar with the practice, it is profound. To outsiders, it appears as a spectacle. Encountering the great Dharma and stepping onto the righteous path, one will understand this principle. Why do Jesus and the primordial celestial Buddha have halos? Our story begins with Professor Konstantin, a quantum physics professor at the National Technical University of Ukraine, Kharkiv Polytechnic Institute. One day, after an accidental leg injury forced him to stay in the hospital for months, he pondered a question. Why does Jesus have a halo above his head? Why do statues of the Buddha in India, China, and South America also have such halos? Is this a mere coincidence, or is there a hidden secret? This seemingly simple thought led him to an unprecedented invention in the history of modern science. Hello, dear viewers of East, West, Ancient, and Modern. Have you ever wondered about this question? It is indeed an unbelievable coincidence that, regardless of culture or country, the enlightened beings and deities worldwide all have a beautiful, radiant halo above their heads. Why do these halos appear? Can ordinary people have such halos around their bodies? All mysteries of this miraculous light will be unveiled in today's video. Please stay tuned. The quantum physics professor and his research journey on the halo phenomenon. The halo phenomenon is originally a mystical aspect of spiritual practices. So why is a quantum physics professor interested in this? It turns out he had read a report by Russian electrical engineer Semyon Kirlian about the glowing phenomenon on the human body. In 1939, Kirlian accidentally discovered the phenomenon of glowing when he placed a high-voltage, high-frequency electrode near a patient's skin. Subsequently, he invented the technique of photographing the halo of an object by placing it on a metal plate covered with photographic film and then passing an electric current through the plate. After many years of research, Kirlian found that the state of the halo also reflected a person's health status. Less halo meant the body was unhealthy and possibly ill. However, for over 20 years, the mainstream scientific community in the Soviet Union did not value Kirlian's research. They thought, how could a few halos determine a person's illness? This was entirely meaningless. In 1964, Kirlian published his first report on the halo phenomenon, which garnered scientific interest. He scientifically explained the presence of a halo around the human body. He explained that this halo not only reflected a person's health, but also their complex personality and mood. The report was then covered by the press, making his bioelectrography technique famous. His photography method was widely used, especially in medical and space fields. Extraordinary invention. This method was recognized by many Western scientists, including Professor Konstantin Korotkov of the National Technical University of Ukraine. He wondered whether the human body's light was related to the legendary halos of gods. Initially, the effect discovered by Kirlian did not always capture the exact halo, as various factors affected the photo's outcome, such as the type of film, voltage, good electrical conductors, lighting duration, exposure time, air humidity, and even the order of photography. Korotkov spent months researching and eventually developed a system for capturing and depicting the human body's halo, known as GDV. After improvements, the halo photography device became more stable and accurate, allowing people to diagnose illnesses by observing the halo. For instance, when a person is calm, their body emits a pale blue light. When angry, the body emits an orange light. When scared, the body emits a red light. When lying, the light appears chaotic. If a person is ill, their body's light gradually fades. If the light disappears entirely, the person is seriously ill. Interestingly, when a couple is in love, their light becomes brighter and pink. When they hold hands, their halos intertwine. Conversely, if two people have no emotional connection, such as strangers, there will be a gap between their halos. Thus, true love can emit a light that makes the world more beautiful and bright. Why does the human body emit a halo? Besides the aforementioned Western scientists, there is an Eastern group of professors researching this phenomenon, led by Professor John Shui-jun of Anhui University. He and his team discovered that the human body has inherent light sources. The meridian points spread throughout the body. There are 741 such points, with 7 major ones running from the top of the head to the dantian. The ancients had long discovered this. If the 7 major points are activated, the emitted light will be the divine halo. To activate these points, one must meditate and cultivate. Moreover, this light does not require photography. It can be observed with the naked eye, proving its incredibly strong radiance. Buddhist scriptures also record that the entire human body can emit light. The mystery of the halo, around Shakyamuni Buddha. In Buddhist scriptures, the Buddha's entire body emits a halo, not just the head. This light can illuminate everywhere. When the Buddha was teaching, his body did not emit light. It only became visible at nirvana. His light shone throughout the 3,000 great thousand worlds, blessing all beings with his wisdom and compassion. The Buddha said all beings have Buddha nature, but our awareness and spirituality have not reached that level. So humans do not have a halo like the Buddha. By cultivating and meditating, letting go of human attachments and desires, our hearts and souls can become pure, filled with compassion and wisdom. Achieving this allows human light to transform into the divine halo. Both Buddhism and Taoism have methods to restore the body's halo. Taoism teaches that by returning to one's true nature, one can live long, even achieve immortality. Why didn't Moggallana use supernatural powers to resolve grudges? Venerable Moggallana was one of Shakyamuni Buddha's foremost disciples in supernatural powers, but did not use them to deal with thugs. He understood karmic relationships, the law of cause and effect, and the recompense for good and evil deeds. He did not want to use supernatural powers against ordinary people. This exemplifies the virtues of patience, wisdom, and compassion of the enlightened. In line with the Buddha's teachings, supernatural powers among practitioners are not unheard of. However, in the practice of righteous paths, moral character must be high, and virtue must be great to develop supernatural powers. As Shakyamuni Buddha taught, do not doubt the wondrous use of supernatural powers. They are not false. However, developing supernatural powers is not the ultimate goal of practitioners. Aligning with the universe's characteristics to attain fulfillment is fundamental. Those with supernatural powers do not flaunt them. Encountering the great Dharma and stepping onto the righteous path, one will understand this principle. One day at noon, after the Buddha had finished alms round, he was returning to the forest where he resided to have his meal when a Brahmin, who worshipped the fire god, approached from the opposite direction. When the Brahmin saw the Buddha, he was suddenly struck and mesmerized by the Buddha's solemnity, handsome appearance, and noble demeanor. This Brahmin, who was skilled in physiognomy, observed the Buddha closely, from top to bottom and from bottom to top. He saw that the Buddha possessed all the marks of a great man, full of merit, virtue, and wisdom. If he were not a renunciate, he would surely become a great king, unifying the world. Thinking of his extraordinarily beautiful daughter, whom he had not yet found a suitable match for, he decided he wanted to offer her in marriage to the Buddha. The Brahmin approached the Buddha and said, "O monk, I see that you are dignified, noble, and possess all the marks of a great man, full of merit, virtue, and wisdom. In the future, you will surely become a great king, enjoying endless riches and glory. I have a daughter with the beauty of a queen, who would make a perfect match for you. Please come to my home, and I will give you my daughter in marriage." The Buddha replied, "O noble Brahmin, thank you for your kind offer. I am a renunciate, completely uninterested in worldly life. I prefer the pure and untainted life of a monk." The Brahmin said, "O monk, you don't understand. My daughter is not just ordinarily beautiful. Any man who sees her is captivated by her beauty and wants to marry her. She is now 16 years old. I am confident that if you see my daughter, you will love her and abandon your renunciation to marry her. If you don't believe me, wait here a moment. I will immediately bring my daughter to meet you." The Buddha replied, "Very well." The Brahmin hurriedly ran home and told his wife, "Dear wife, today I have found a good husband for our daughter. He has the marks of a great man, the most handsome person I have ever seen. Quickly call our daughter, dress her up beautifully, and bring her to him." His wife asked, "What has gotten into you today? Why are you so hastily giving our daughter away? Our daughter is a peerless beauty." The Brahmin said, "Don't worry, my dear wife. I am very responsible regarding our daughter. Dress her up beautifully and bring her to him. When you see him, you will understand everything I said." Their daughter, named Dera, was as beautiful as a heavenly fairy. After being carefully dressed up by her parents, she looked even more beautiful than a fairy. The Brahmin led his wife and daughter to where he had met the Buddha. Not finding the Buddha there, they saw 2 lines of footprints on the ground. They followed the footprints and found the Buddha sitting under a large tree, eyes closed. The Brahmin hurriedly ran to the Buddha and said, "O monk, I have brought my wife and daughter. Look at her beauty. I now officially offer my daughter to you." Dera, beautiful as she was, immediately admired the Buddha's noble and dignified appearance. But the Buddha, who had long abandoned all desires, only slightly opened his eyes to look at the Brahmin's wife and daughter, and asked, "O noble Brahmin, please tell me which one is your daughter and which is your wife." The Brahmin, astonished, said, "The young and beautiful one is my daughter. The older one with wrinkles is my wife. How can you not distinguish such obvious differences?" The Buddha said, "Oh, I see. The older one is your wife, and the younger one is your daughter. Now tell me, what was your wife like 40 years ago?" The Brahmin replied, 40 years ago, my wife was as young and beautiful as my daughter is now." The Buddha asked, "What will your daughter be like 40 years from now?" The Brahmin said, 40 years from now, with age, my daughter will also have a face full of wrinkles like my wife today." The Buddha said, "Therefore, I see that they differ only in age, not in beauty or ugliness. Indeed, your daughter is very beautiful. Other men will be moved by her, but I will not. When I attained enlightenment, I saw all the dangers of desire. It is a trap of beauty. Those who fall into it will be engulfed and swallowed. It is like a rose on a steep cliff. Those who try to pick it will fall into the abyss and be destroyed. The worldly people do not know the dangers of desire, pursuing it endlessly, never escaping the cycle of birth and death. Many heroes and great men have been ruined by it. Knowing its dangers, I will never fall into the trap of beauty." The Buddha looked at Dera and said, "Young lady, do not desire. It is the main cause of samsara, the source of suffering. Look at my serene face, and you will extinguish desire and find peace and harmony." However, Dera, proud and ambitious, lacking the foundation of goodness, felt deeply insulted. She thought, "If he does not want me, so be it, but he speaks as if I am worthless. This is a great insult to me." Furious, she turned and ran home, harboring hatred for the Buddha. Later, Dera, leveraging her unparalleled beauty, married the king of Udinama and became the queen. Dealing with those who insult you. The following year, when the Buddha came to the capital of Udinama to teach, Dera sought revenge. She used gold and silver to hire a group of thugs to insult the Buddha with vile language. No matter where the Buddha went, these people followed and cursed him. Despite their insults, the Buddha continued to smile and respond with calmness. Ananda, unable to tolerate the filthy words, said to the Buddha, "World-honored one, let us leave this place and go elsewhere." The Buddha asked, "Ananda, where should we go?" Ananda replied, "To a place where no one curses us." The Buddha said, "And if there are people who curse us there, where will we go next? The problem should be resolved where it arises. Only then can we go elsewhere." One day at noon, while the Buddha was on alms round, the thugs climbed the trees along his path and cursed wildly, shaking the trees so that dew fell on the Buddha, drenching him and his alms bowl. Despite this, the Buddha continued to smile and walk steadily forward. Suddenly, there was a thud, followed by a loud cry, "Oh!" The cursing stopped. The most aggressive thud had fallen from the tree. He struggled to stand but couldn't. The Buddha approached, helped him up, and found that he was severely injured and needed urgent treatment. The Buddha supported him into the city and took him to the best surgeon, Bishara. Seeing the Buddha, Bishara stood up and offered his seat, inviting the Buddha to sit with a clean cloth. Bishara respectfully stood by. When the Buddha asked Bishara to treat the injured man, Bishara refused, saying, "Venerable Buddha, I know what has been happening these days. This man is the one who insulted you most fiercely. His fall and injury are well deserved." The Buddha said, "Please do not think that way. When they used the most vicious words to insult me, and when they drenched me with dew, I held no resentment against them and did not consider their actions as insults. I still regard them as my good brothers. Now, my good brother is severely injured and desperate. I must help him. Please treat his injury." The thuds, hearing this, immediately knelt down, weeping and repenting for their wrongdoings. They witnessed everything firsthand and understood what true goodness and beauty were. They pulled out the gold coins Macamdera had given them and threw them into the trash, determined to correct their past mistakes and start anew. The Buddha smiled, nodded gently, and helped each of them stand up. You have just witnessed the noble conduct and great kindness of the Buddha when insulted. He held no resentment and sincerely cared for those who insulted him. When the insulter fell, he moved them to repent and abandon their wrong ways. Similarly, when we encounter people who treat us poorly, we should not retaliate in kind, to avoid endless grudges and to possibly turn enemies into friends, transforming their evil hearts. What lessons have you learned from this video? Please leave your comments below.